They've added reverse engineering into Build 42 Unstable, and it's actually a great direction for the game if unbalanced. That's not surprising, considering it's the first draft of the mechanic. What this mechanic does is allow you to learn crafting recipes from certain items if you have the correct requirement. You also gain a bit of experience in the relevant skills when you do it. No longer do you have to find a magazine telling you how to make a sledgehammer when a sledgehammer is right there in front of you. You can learn multiple recipes from the same item. If you don't have the required stats, you can research it again later to learn the recipes you missed the first time. This single mechanic will cause myriad changes to the way you play Build 42. If I tried to explain them all, we'd be here for hours, so I'll give you a small taste. Players taking the literate trait now have access to far more recipes. You can actually specialize into a crafting skill in a way that would be impossible before. Metalworking can fulfill almost all of your crafting needs by itself. The supporting skill most used by it is carving, which you can also invest in and train up easily. Illiterate might be a tempting option in a patch with less available trait points. I'm going to skip the rest of the potential in reverse engineering and instead talk about the way this mechanic, as it currently exists, in its first draft form, interacts poorly with the current systems of the game. Right now, there's a push towards finding recipe magazines and skill books before you can or even want to progress in the crafting system. Without the recipes, you can't do what you want. Without the skill books, you will spend a ton of time and resources doing something you could have done far faster, not only through gaining more XP per craft, but because you don't need to acquire as many materials to level in the first place. That last bit is usually the hard part. I'll also remind you that you cannot fast forward in multiplayer like you can in single player, something generally missing from the Build 42 crafting feedback as we only have access to single player so far. You're punished fairly heavily if you decide to grind out a skill without first finding the skill books. Books that require much more effort to find in Build 42 Unstable than Build 41. Not only will you be dealing with more zombies to get those precious books, the actual skill books are rarer, so you'll have to journey to more places and deal with even more zombies. There is mitigation for this via additional sources of skill books. A carpentry van has a high chance to have carpentry tools and books in the back. As you travel around looking for books and generally surviving, you can keep an eye out for these additional specialized sources of loot. You can also play specific professions or traits to start with some recipes learned. Except that is a mistake in the current system. The problem with this system is the experience gained by reverse engineering coming into conflict with the existing design around experience gain. Why would I read a recipe magazine if finding the correct items gives me the same recipes and free XP? To make it worse, I want to wait until I've read the highest possible tier skill book before researching the items because of their experience gain multipliers. Huge experience gain multipliers. So large you almost never see them in any other game, experience gain multipliers. Really, how many serious games have you ever played with a times 16 experience gain multiplier in it? Reverse engineering's addition to the game is pointing out the absurdity of the inflated experience multipliers and their effect on balance. To prove my point, I'm going to make a character starting with level 1 maintenance, since it grants a times 4 experience gain multiplier. This is the intended way to specialize your character in a skill. Then I'm going to read the tier 2 maintenance skill book. I currently have a level 2 maintenance and no extra experience. I researched this iron pipe, which is a very common item, and boom, level 3 maintenance. That gave me 450 XP if you're counting. Next, I'll just research this tire. And now I'm level 4 maintenance with 50 XP left over. 650 XP gained from looking at a tire. Except one of the tire recipes required level 4 to unlock, so I'll read the next skill book and research it again. Would you look at that? Another 400 experience. For reference, at level 4 maintenance, researching the level 4 craft on the tire without any bonuses gives you 12.5 experience, which sounds entirely reasonable until you realize 12.5 base experience is far more than usual when it comes to crafting skills. The issue is that it is 120 crafts to level up versus 4 with the skill bonus in the book, or 15 with just the book. What would you even do with 120 identical pieces of tire armor? You understand why I wouldn't want to read the Outfits Apocalypse magazine if by not reading it I can gain more than a level in maintenance just by looking at a tire? Yeah, it's simple math. I can cut 90% of the interaction with a crafting skill out of the equation by fighting zombies to find books. I'm not even min-maxing the mechanic yet. What I did before is normal gameplay, researching a single level 4 crafting recipe at level 4 maintenance granting me a fourth of a level. If I start a guy with level 1 maintenance and fast learner, I can push this much farther just by reading a higher tier skill book. For example, I have a level 4 maintenance and read the appropriate skill book. Getting to level 5 maintenance from 4 requires 1,500 experience. This book grants a times 8 experience multiplier. 5 out of the 6 recipes require a lower maintenance level, so I'm benefiting from delaying my research to enjoy the higher experience multiplier. I got 1,872 experience from researching the tire. If I start with level 3 maintenance and wait until a higher level maintenance to read a higher tier skill book, I get even more experience from the tire. The tier 4 book is a times 12 experience multiplier. The tier 5 book goes up to times 16. This isn't just a thing with maintenance. Any skill you can get a bonus in without learning all of its recipes ends up the same way. Carpentry, welding, tailoring, and metalworking benefit from it. By the way, I used the tier 2 and 3 skill books for the example because purposefully going beyond level 6 in most crafting skills isn't necessary. You gain most of the value by level 6. Metalworking, on the other hand, is one of few skills you can justify grinding a single efficient recipe up to higher levels, then researching the other recipes on a very high tier book for maximum gains. Beware though. You do automatically gain recipes at certain levels, so it takes yet more metagaming knowledge to perfect your min-max. Reverse engineering granting XP isn't the problem. The problem is the experience inflation caused by the skill books. They split up the armor crafting over several levels because it helps smooth out progression. That plan for progression ultimately conflicts with skill books. With the experience multipliers, you progress unreasonably fast. Without them, you progress unreasonably slow due to the experience requirements scaling with the book. The disparity is too severe in most skills, particularly for a default setting that we cannot change via sandbox settings. You can increase a generic experience gain multiplier or for each skill individually, but not the values of the skill bonus or book. That's why there was so much drama about the skill books becoming rare in the first place. Reverse engineering is a great addition to the game. It just happens to highlight an issue with the progression of crafting skills. Under normal circumstances, you want to avoid crafting skills until you can skip them. That's why I'm talking about this. The beta of the crafting update is the perfect time to update crafting skill progression. What I would want here is a change of numbers. Reduce the multipliers to something reasonable and change the experience requirement scaling to match it. The skill books don't have to disappear. What if they only doubled your experience gain? However, when it comes to multiplayer, it may require more changes. It'll be straight OSRS crafting when you can't fast forward. Start smithing 20 iron bars and come back a minute or two later when it's done. Repeat 50 times. If you're the townsmith, you might spend hours AFK crafting just to sustain the incredibly fast rates top tier weapons break at. Most survival games avoid this by attaching timers to automated crafting tables so the crafter doesn't actually spend much time crafting. I'm not sure if the Indie Stone wants to stray that far from realism. The end goal is likely NPCs taking the place of automated crafting tables after all. Chances are players will want a stopgap between now and then. Personally, I like OSRS, so that's not a deal breaker for me. If only Zomboid also worked on my phone. If anyone knows an emulation setup that'll run on Android, I'd love to try it out.